an inspiring one in our action, very important one I would say. Johan Borchgrevink, telling about what a planner needs. You look very good on camera if you step here.
I never do. Also, I never do. Thank you. I will add to, as Ingela already said, we've been working closely together on this, and my profession is planner. I'm an educated architect with planning as a specialty. I've been working with that all my life. Now retired just, but I have the privilege of joining Ingela's project and the cross groups parallel efforts. So, and realizing that a lot of discussions have been around planners' needs, but quite a lot of the focus I found have been on the more detailed levels, where the planners' needs are, of course, very vital. But my question has been, are there things on the more strategic levels that also are important to address regarding the subsurface, as the superior plans often, as you put it, have cascade down there. and my assumption has been yes, it is, and so hence the focus. Yes, as I just said, is there enough focus on the use of underground information on strategic planning levels? I would say maybe not. As you said, Dermot, I mean, I'm not coming up with any final conclusion. Our cities are very different, but there are also similarities, and we learned a little from this, which I will return to shortly. And if not in the concrete context, it's around the processes where we really can learn from each other. I shall not read all of this, but with us this is very much the case. We do have the municipal plan in Oslo, which is now since 2008 legally binding, and to work here with stakeholders. I mean, we're talking about some tens of thousands of landowners. We're talking about future projects that are not really on its feet yet. So this is very much a framework, but it's still a legally binding framework. So to sort of outline to the best of present knowledge on that level is the art of municipal planning, without really having we have the major stakeholders like the state road people, the railway people, and all those, but all the developers, landowners, and also the interested organizations, very legitimately interested and will have their opinion known and taken into account, will be hard to address around the table, contrary to the more detailed plan. So, when we're talking about the geologists and the planners, that is not my reality. I'm the yellow guy here, and as you can see on the blue circles, there are lots of concerns I should regard when doing master plan or the superior plan, and the subsurface is the red one down there. So now with everything we have developed, if we come up with we're trying to gather our information bank in Oslo to coordinate that, and if the red guy comes up to me and say, hey, the subsurface is so important, we have gathered all our information, we have 3D modeling tools to support you, here you are. Say, please leave it at the end of my table, thank you very much. And that will be very likely the outcome of the conversation. I will also leave it. So, to me, a very key challenge here is how to find the vital issues on the master planning or the strategic level, and how to communicate them really. We've been in and out of this all the time. And I will comment briefly on it, and Ingela just did also what some of the key figures are in Oslo, but they would be different elsewhere. This one again, you've seen it before. Also, this. Okay. This is our planning system, but it's when we joined forces with others this autumn in Ljubljana and returned to that, we realized it's very much the same thing. It's the very principle. It's a municipal master plan and going down in detail here. And there are phases which are similar in all of these planning levels, which is you sort of define the task, you do the analysis and planning proposal work. You could have consideration if that is someone else produces a plan, we will have the consideration within the municipality. Then there will be a hearing round, and then you will do some work after the hearing round. You don't do that for fun. I mean, you should consider what comes in when people submit their viewpoints, and then you have the decision, political, administrative, on the detail level. Pretty similar, and the blue shades here are where we assume that the use of various expertise, including geotechnical, would be of great value in the analysis phase, on the municipal level, on the area zoning or detailed plan level, or in the building application, and likewise when you have the hearing round to sort of justify the viewpoints of what has come forward. So that is a simplicity and complexity of this one. Yes, you've seen this before. You just Ingo just showed you, but the municipal master plan, and you have also thematic municipal sub-plans, of which here is the green structure plan just shown on the map. This is a municipal plan which Ingo showed you, and an example of a detailed plan. So having a separate municipal sub-plan for the underground is going to start hopefully shortly. We'll see. I mentioned that our legislation was changed, and the first generation of the new municipal master plan, we managed to communicate and get into the plan consideration zones for potential quick play areas. It's not complete, but it's in principle there, and identified some areas. Same thing for contaminated ground, and more comprehensively for transport infrastructure. And also define some areas where the more detailed plan should be carried out by the municipality. That's also related to our planning system. We considered, but did not include in the first generation, groundwater management and consideration zones for water and sewage. That was proposed by the water and sewage people, but again, it has to do with the level of planning, and we found that not worthwhile to include in the municipal plan. So they just started to revise the municipal plan, and development of the consideration zones for quick play. I don't know how much that's problematic to others, but I assume it is. And we just identified very few areas, but we realized there are quite a lot of others also. Maybe also consideration zones for the consideration zones means that the land use can be whatever, parks, dwellings, but within a zone identified as a consideration zone, you would have rules in addition to the map that will say you will have to do this and that, or you could not do this and that. Yeah. You just went through that one. Then we thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I had the opportunity to gather a few people in Ljubljana last autumn in a special workshop just prior to the group meeting. And the cities involved are shown on the map. 7 cities with various background, various administrative organization, various legislation and so forth, but still with a lot of similar interests. So we looked at the present state of strategic planning, and we tried to reveal what kind of aspects of the underground were taken into account. We did that, and also discussed how things could be improved. And there's an assumption down there. All information available to everybody at all times is not the answer. Very much relevant to what I said earlier on, that if someone comes with a lot of perfect material and drops it on my desk, that is probably not the way to communicate. And I haven't got the answer to how. Helen suggested some approaches to this with working groups and so forth, and we have a relationship now with or had with the project and the people dealing with the Oslo municipal plan, but it's very vulnerable. I mean, I've retired, you've got another job, and the guy in charge is one person, one key person whom we have addressed. If he gets a better paid job or moves to somewhere else, he might be in trouble. So to have some kind of continuity and safety for how this, the security for how this will be continuously kept alive, that's very important. You have the cities to the left here, Ljubljana, Oslo, and so forth, and we very briefly, and it shows how many major planning levels. Does it, semantics planning level, does that is that very is the strategic plan covering the whole city, and the more detailed for smaller areas? It's what we try to show here, and also are these plans law or according to law? And as you see, most of them are also on the strategic level. The regulations, do they have written material attached to the maps? Oh yes, they do indeed have. Who is preparing the strategic plans in the various cities? Would the state be involved? Yes, they would, in different forms. And would these plans be regularly updated? Yes, to most of us it would. With us, it's we have every 4 years we re-elect the politicians, and one of their tasks by law is to revise the municipal plan, and if they wish to revise it or change it, and of course they do all the time. So that in practical terms, that means that we have an update of the municipal plan every 4 years. Yes, we structured our efforts in dividing by what's the natural features of the underground and what are the man-made features. So these are the natural elements, and who will provide and what is the use of underground information. Look at the right column there, consultation of expertise, little or none, or question marks. But some, Helsinki and Gothenburg, have been fortunate enough to see this earlier, and even have professionals within the master planning organization. Man-made elements. there are lots of, particularly national bodies, very interested in taking part in this. And Ingela also mentioned the buffer zones with us. They're not decided. She showed the map of the Swiss cheese, our Ekberg Hill, which is tunneled through, and it was a delay of some 6 months or something on the planning of the new high-speed train link to the south, because the road people said you can't come this close to our tunnel. But in principle, it's the guy on top of the hill who owns everything underneath him. But in the courtrooms, your owner rights goes as deep as you have sort of practical use of the underground. So to a single house, it could be the basement or a parking thing. But now with the energy drilled down to 150 meters, that's also an important question which the project addressed. And that created some stir because the road people didn't have any protection by a formal plan. They said, of course we own our tunnel. You all wanted it, you all paid for it, it's there. But to sort of have a plan-based decision on buffer zones, some have already, and we don't. But it's vital. Some keywords. We didn't conclude with a very outlined conclusion in Ljubljana. You can read for yourself. I would economic aspects, private municipal. Some cities are having municipal ownership to most of the grounds. We don't. So it differs, and that also have we discussed that with some interest because that gives some implications to how eagerly you go on planning your. If you have no financial interest at all, it's sort of ideal. It's an obligation. You ideally have to make the best plan you can, but there is no driving force as for the economical aspects, and therefore maybe also why should I consider the underground in principle. We are so fortunate as quite of the politicians are aware of the implications, mostly based on bad experiences. So they're on their toes. They have the second our wish to come up with a subsurface master plan, which is good. And the last little point also, create continuity and trust. I mentioned the vulnerability of our system, but that is so important. We find a level of communicating the subsurface issues, to have that as a regular thing, both in which fora we discuss it, but also how it's implied in the quality assurance system, in our local regulations and so forth. Otherwise it will easily go away. I think that was all. It's just how we could structure it. We discussed that also. You showed this the comprehensive one with all the planning. Yes, I think that's it. Yes, this one you showed. I just had the top of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Johan. Question?